Hello and welcome to the new episode of Write On podcast when we're gonna talk to our fellow writers from writing community, mostly from Twitter, our fellow writers on the pad, our fellow hustlers, and see what brings them to writing, what inspires them, and what they learn on their journey they're willing to share with the rest of us. This time, we're gonna ask few questions my good friend, the Mad Minstrel on Twitter, or more specifically at girl name underscore Fred. I'm gonna link it in description. She's really supportive, really clever, and she was wonderful when she was willing to answer on some of my questions and send them back. First of all, really nice introduction she gives in email. Hey Crownless, thank you so much for the invitation. I am both honored and proud to be among the first guests on your new podcast. I know some of my answers might be a little long, so you can feel free to skip any of them if you need to shorten the pod. I tend to talk quite a bit when people ask me questions about myself, lol. Don't we all, Minstrel? Don't we all? Also, I'm definitely not gonna shorten anything because as as good it feels when you or others thank me for quote unquote giving opportunity, you're the star and you giving me a solid, so let's not forget that. First question I ask is tell us about yourself, and Minstrel answers. I am in my mid 30s and have spent the last 15 years working in healthcare. Some days I feel like I came to writing a little late in the game, but when I stop and think about it, I like that I waited. It means I spent enough time actually living and experiencing all life has to offer, so I'll be able to authentically write about it. End of answer. That is really, really wise. I I'm I actually wish I, like many people, probably wish they start writing earlier or start doing anything earlier. But I was long time depressed that I don't have like girlfriend or that I had relationship here and there. I never really, if you're gonna call that, I never have a long term relationship. I'm not married. I not have kids, and there are people who got married and they get kids early and they're perfect. Honestly, I'm 27 and I still feel like a dumb kid, and only now I'm just starting to get my life together. So, even if it's reverse, I can absolutely see your point that you got your life experiences and you got things together. And honestly, in recent times, I seriously considering writing characters much older than me because personally, one, I loved Joel in Last of Us, who was like first old hero that we all felt to love. Arguably, that was in video games. Solid Snake in 4, but that was more of an unusual aging of younger character. There was Kratos of God of War, and now I'm talking about video game examples, but there's also Thomas in Powder Mage, and I realized that in fiction you often have characters that are either just about to get in their journey or they're just too old to experience anything new, and for most writers and most readers, too old to experience anything new is 30. Like anything post high school if you're talking about anime and Japanese fiction. And honestly, I don't like that idea. I liked it when I was young, but now that I'm 27, I'm turning 30. It seems like literally entire planet was telling me that when I'm 30, I imagine number 30 in my head, and below that, beyond that is just dark void. Like it seems like from what people told me, if I don't get anything I ever wanted by the age of 30, I shouldn't even try. And hopefully, you being in mid 30s will tell me that that is nonsense, that there is still plenty to live for on. Joe Rogan was clever when he says he's pushing 50 and he still feels kind of stupid and still feels like he's yet to discover. And not to turn it about myself, I just wanted to add it that not only I like what you're saying here that you wait it and you get life's experience, I also absolutely adore, and like I said in recent time, playing with the idea of writing older characters and showing that no, life doesn't end in 30 and life doesn't end in high school. There's still plenty to discover and plenty to learn. Second question I asked was when was the earliest you remember being interested in storytelling? And Minstrel answers. I wrote my first story before I could actually write. I was about 2 or 3 years old and I scribbled pretend words next to pictures that I had drawn. After I had glued all the pages together and my mom put it on the shelf with all other books, I felt like I had discovered something miraculous. There was there was something almost magical about realizing that books were nothing more than something from someone else's mind, and I wanted to be part of it. I cannot say that I have. Oh, sorry. Skip to other answer. End of answer. Sorry. Minstrel, I'm losing it. This is quite possibly one of the cutest stories I've ever heard. Basically, you that idea of making like not pretending you cooking dinner or you building a spaceship or holding piece of wood and pretend it's gun or sword or magic gun sword like I would not pretend not I don't know putting I put plush animals and pretend they are army or talk to them or something. No, you just make a book before you could read or write. It's just so beautiful. I'm sorry, man. The I I'm losing it, Mister. This is just adorable. Like imagine in my mind, little girl scribbling with like crayons, made up words and nothing words next to pictures, and be like, yeah, I have book. And shoutouts for your mom to putting it next to other books. I cannot imagine how much joy and pride you have to felt. Oh my god. Next next question I asked was what is your favorite book and how it shaped your style? And Minstrel answers, I cannot say that I have favorite book, as there are so many in this world that have shaped who I am as both person and writer. But if I had to choose some things, I could say Stuart Little by E.B. White and The Mouse and the Motorcycle by Beverly Cleary were both impactful in my youth. My mother, my brother, and I would take turns reading to each every night before bed, and it was with those books that I discovered the power of imagination. End of answer. This is also wonderful, and I don't have any family instincts. I don't want to get married anytime soon or have children, but I imagine that if I would have kids, I would read to them or make them read, assuming I would manage to trick them into having fun. I was forced to read aloud because I always loved reading, but I'm a dyslexic, so I had to read at least one book or one page aloud. I read Harry Potter, and if you remember in Harry Potter, there's character Hagrid who mispronounced things, and I have this weird memory in my head when I would read exactly as it was written, and my mother would scold me and get very angry that I keep missing that one spot while refusing to look at the page, at least for few minutes, to see that I really not making mistake. It's a stupid memory, but reading can be fun, and I'm realizing I tried before reading my things aloud. I probably go for a podcast before I cancel that. I probably gonna go back to it just to see how well sentence fit together if I made any bad mistakes. And reading aloud has definitely not just for your mind and not just for what you're reading, but also for your skill and where you can talk to yourself, because talking in your mind and writing is very different than actually saying the words. And like I can write expert not expertly, but I can write and read and listen very well in English, but as you can tell, talking still gives me a bit of a trouble, even though we once complimented my accent, Minstrel, and you better know I told about that to everyone. I actually screen capped that tweet because I couldn't believe someone liked my accent. Next question. In next question, 4 and 5 questions in my interview are usually to hate favorite and most hated genre, but Minster actually combined them and gave short but really good answer. I don't have favorite genre or hated genre. I literally read everything from autobiographies to romance. It just depends on my mood. Now you said end of answer. Now, Minstrel, you said it depends on your mood, and I respect that, but you actually doing something clever, I feel, whenever it's intentional or not. I try to look, I primarily write fantasy, and like I said you on Twitter, I plan to this one I'm reading in type of this one I'm writing in type of recording. In fact, I'm recording this moment after I finished first chapter, not counting prologue, who was equally long. I think that I have a bit of a controversial opinion on research, unless you're making specifically historical story, because I read so many books where it starts with okay, you're reading about assassination of the king, and then story just stops and you spend 10 pages explaining how they're dining. And while I understand it could be very interesting, many people are so proud of their research that they feel almost guilty not using it. And I heard that uh, some time ago on a podcast where I believe it was called time investment bias, where it's now this is extreme example, but it's similar. And I knew women who were abused by their partners, but they refused to leave with simply saying that they've been together too long and they just don't feel like leaving. Yes, extreme example, but point being that a lot of people invest a lot of time in something that might not be that good, and then they have hard time letting it go. And for us writers, it's problem not just for research, but even from people who write pure fiction, from people who write fantasy like me, from people who write, let's say, who are pure pantser and just whatever comes to their mind they put on paper. Problem is that you in editing you might love something and you might be forced to let it go. But going back to what you said, similarly, there's it works other way around when they could be piece of information you might not find interesting, yet it became very useful later. That's exactly why in one of the future questions I always ask about real life or historical inspirations, because you might be writing about knights and tentacles and you find something in the news about current day politics that could be useful. I'm not talking about adding politics in the story, but maybe you don't know how magical kingdom could be run, and then you find out that Switzerland has this strange voting system. We didn't direct democracy, and you go, oh yeah, that's right. My magic kingdom should use direct democracy like Switzerland. Maybe you find out that in America, president is head of a country, while in my country, Slovakia, president is figurehead. In my country is run by prime minister, and president, while is officially head of state, has pretty much no power. And you might be thinking, okay, I'm gonna make dwarf kingdom who has prime minister, and I'm gonna make goblin kingdom who has president, and that's gonna be world building. So reading while I that's why I sounds complicated. I'm gonna bring it together to writing tip. While I always warn that relying too much on research could be form of procrastination, and how to you might be so proud of your research that you might actually damage story by adding filler. By the same time, spreading your views and looking at different genres than your favorite and different books and autobiographies, even from people you might not find interesting at first, it might give you unprecedented well of information you never know when you could use any of those ideas for your story. So that's the point, and that's what I'm saying. It's absolutely very useful to look at it like this. Next question was favorite trope and minstrel answers. I think one of my favorite tropes would be hurt/comfort. It's in this trope that we get unusual character behavior and relationships develop that might not have come to fruition in other time. Basically, I like anything that turns normal behavior into something else. Hurt the hero and have the weak/sidekick/love interest take a lead to take care of them. It shows us the audience how dynamic people really are. Just yesterday I was invited by Expert Pigeon, my other friend on Twitter, and I think I invited you, at least I hope so, into Twitter game. Oh god, my bad, my own rules. End of answer. How dynamic really people are. It shows us the audience how dynamic people really are. End of answer. In this Twitter game, basically someone asks, I don't want to pause recording, so I'm really worried that just still ending with this. Hold on, I just check it out. It was tweeted by Kyanite Publishing, who Kyanite Publishing, about book Forgotten Storm, and idea was to spell out your favorite love trope and that way, and add to every letter one of your Twitter friends, which was a really fun idea. I was tagged by my friend Expert Pigeon. Yeah, thank God I tagged you also, Kyla Pigeon and a couple others. And my answer actually was, and I'm gonna read it right now, when character has an extreme care of self-loathing, hashtag relatable, and think they are useless but the love interest show them that they are needed too. I absolutely love this trope. I'm not big on romance, at least I wasn't when I was younger. I'm trying to put it back in my last work. I had idea of mercenary main character. Think I was talking about to you about it, where mercenary Lars was seemingly badass who could do nothing would scare him. He had this wife who didn't fall but was very supportive, and later it shows up that they are both very broken people and they very much need each other to continue. What you just said is not only beautiful and not only romantic, but what I try to focus, it's actually a very practical tip. When you do anything too long, it gets boring. Even stand-up comedians need to give their audience time to catch a breath after laughter, or at very least, if it's joke by joke, they don't do same joke first. First they make joke about women, then they make joke about army, then they make joke about men, then they make joke about children, then they make joke about politicians, then they make joke about, I don't know, whatever city they're in. And you need to spread it. So I like actually idea. In fact, this story I'm working on, it's one of the leading idea that there's sort of a implied but very strongly implied lesbian romance brewing as story goes, and main character Evelyn is a fighter. She's moonlight gun mage. She basically can add magic to her bullets, and I really like this idea. I'm playing with it a lot. But but also Evelyn is traumatized. She has PTSD. She's people pleaser, and this my own real life interest in things like BDSM and power exchange in relationships coming, where Evelyn is extremely powerful as a fighter but is people pleaser, and she's actually very calm and very submissive in her private life. Meantime, her best friend, maybe lover by end of the book, I don't know, read it, find out. Her friend Liz is actually much more stronger person despite the fact she's not interested in fighting, and as story goes, we found out just how much Evelyn depends on her and how much she would already give up even in past, even before beginning of the story, if Liz wouldn't be pillar for her, and if Liz, despite not being obviously strong warrior or anything like that, like Evelyn is, Liz is always there to be calm, to be grounded, and to give Evelyn someone to lean on. And honestly, with all humbleness, I think it's a good idea, and I think that your favorite trope really captures it. Didn't want to turn this into talking about my story, but I want to say that this gives me a lot of confidence what you point out, because you're being really clever about it and you're being very rational, especially the part when you take that the weak slash sidekick slash love interest now has turned to take care of them, meaning for at least for a brief moment they take the lead in telling the story. And like I said, it shifts the balance. It makes it real clear that the hero isn't central of the universe, and that way it makes it more relatable and makes it more fun. The seventh question I asked was, what's your hated trope? And Minstrel gives short but very interesting answer of, I don't think I have hated trope. There are certainly some that have been overused, but it doesn't mean they don't serve a purpose. End of answer. Very, very interesting answer. And I do have my hated tropes, but then again, I'm the guy who absolutely loves deconstructing and changing tropes, so I can see the point of taking something that could be considered garbage trope or cliche and reworking it into something absolutely wonderful. So again, Minstrel, You hit nail on the head, which I'm not entirely sure this phrase exists in English. Basically, you hit the point and you actually gave me something to think about. My next question number 8, was your first writing attempt and Minstrel answers. My first writing attempt? I think that would be angsty teenage poetry. I loved poetry, it spoke to me about things far greater than myself, and as a teenager, I needed to see the world beyond where I was. I write and published my first poem when I was 14, and still write poetry from time to time, as I've always found it to be a wonderful way to process world around me. End of answer. Very interesting and very rational, especially part about publishing. I never got there with my poetry, and when you say angsty teenage poetry, I started to write poetry as a joke when I was bored on English class, and I wrote in English short poem about a guy who flips and lands his face on pile of shit. What happened then is some people liked it, so I just had like I just basically wrote poetry every hour. One time I remember a chair broke on the teacher and she fell on her butt, so in like 5 minutes I wrote poem about that and handed it to her and she laughed at it. So that was win. And I made the ones that were humorous, even though that was dark humor, but some of them that were so freaking angsty and dark and man, darkness, man. We all were that in the face, and I didn't look like God. I didn't wear black or anything, but yeah, it was garbage. Even though I wish I still had it because one or two poems were really fun. I remember there was girl I had crush on who read them, even just like automatically taken from my hand when she saw that I was done writing. And there was one poem that she absolutely loved, and she's like, "See, this one's beautiful. This isn't dark or cynical. You should write more like that." And I'm like, "Say the girl's name. Let's call her Panda." She looked like baby panda. She was very cute. I'm like, "Panda, why don't you just read that poem really quick again?" It was like 5 sentences or 10. It was really short. Pay attention to ending, and basically she really gets there and goes, "Oh god damn." And basically what it is, that whole poem was describing like man is describing this beautiful woman, like your hair, your lips, your breasts, your legs, your smile, everything he loves about woman. And it ends, when they lower you down, I will never see you again. I never see any of those again. And basically it's man on the funeral of his loved woman, his wife or girlfriend or whatever. And it was really dark. I don't think I would write something like this today, but it's supposed to be said. And I loved that she praised me, and I laughed and I laughed aloud when I saw her face when she realized what it was about. So this dark and antsy poem actually turned into kind of a comedy memory. My next question that I asked Minstrel was if she could tell us something about her current work in progress, and she answered, "I have several projects going on right now, but the one getting the most attention would be the lesbian romance. It started out as a short story, but the publisher exposed an interest in the work by asking if I could expand it into a full book, and I said yes. So here I am. I've never written a romance and had never considered that as a writing path, but I have to say it's a lot of fun. I like the idea of writing knowing that I will end with a happily ever after. The world needs as many happy endings as possible." End of answer. Couldn't agree with more. Personally, unlike where happy ending is earned, that's just my personal preference, and I decided just recently to add some of the bad or questionable endings to my stories. Again, just personal reference, but also, like I said before, sometimes you just need to read something because you need something happy in your life, and when you just need to be told that things could be okay and that you don't need to worry, books and stories like this, that just what makes this possible. And that's why that I believe that writing stories and fictional stories are important in people's life, not just for something vague like escapism, which I always thought that word escapism, escaping from reality, has such a negative correlation to that. Like people put video games and writing and movies in same category, as getting blackout drunk or taking drugs. Oh, honestly, I disagree with it. I think that this quote unquote escapism through stories also serves as inspiration and motivation, and in some case, like I said, feeling connection with fictional characters and through them with writer, feeling connection with someone you never met. I believe fiction does makes you more empathic and makes you more emotionally stable, which was always very important to me and very important to provide to others. So I think you have again a very nice way of looking at this. I myself, like I said before, in current work in progress, have lesbian romance brewing, which originally wasn't even supposed to be there in first draft. It just came out of nowhere, more or less, and I just like those characters too much and their relationships too much that I decided to take a risk. So I can tell, I know damn well how you can start with nothing or something that you think that shouldn't even be there, or something little and innocent, like in your case, short story, and just with time and adding things and other people's interest, you can really see your idea growing and becoming into something you would never think it's possible. So good luck with that, and I hope I will have chance to read it. Next thing that I asked was, pardon me, if and what Minstrel learned from previous versions and previous draft of her story, her previous attempts, and she answered, I learned from every project and every draft. I learn from the projects that succeed and from those that fail. Learning is not always a comfortable process, and it can hurt when something doesn't go well, but that's all part of becoming the best human you can be. We have to keep growing and changing otherwise. Otherwise, what's the point? End of answer. Absolutely agree. In real life as well as in fiction, there needs to be movement. There is no such thing as being static. I mean, literally, obviously, you can be sitting in the chair like me, you can be standing, you can be lying down. But if you're not improving, it also, a lot of people, and first time, even me, when I heard it, I dismiss it as some sort of metaphysical woo woo. But no, when you're not getting your time back, and wasted time hurts more than anything. So I genuinely believe that both human beings as well as the character they write, if they're not growing, they're going backwards. If you're not improving yourself, being static is not neutral. Not improving yourself in some way. I'm not saying you need to be workaholic. I mean, it could be working on your relationship. It could be working on being better parent or better partner or better child or better anything. But if you're not bettering yourself a little bit, you might actually risk of going backwards and getting worse, because like I said, being stuck in one place, it's not a good thing unless it's place you love, of course. And with that, especially, yes, yeah, what you say that learning is painful process, it absolutely is, but it's worth it. And way I in current time I'm gonna be retrained for new position in my job, and it's still not entirely sure I'll be able to keep it, so it's a bit stressful. But right now, even on my off day, I'm learning things and reading from book things that I'm gonna be needing for my new job, which will be much more responsibility and much more stress. But I'm starting to get genuinely excited about new thing, and I loved my position. I wish I could stay there, but now I'm kicked into doing something else. And I got to say, it's starting to be getting to be really exciting to learn about new things that I'm going to be doing. I'm studying new things that I found until 2 days ago to be incredibly boring, and basically learning new rules and new laws seemed like new different language. But then again, I love language learning, and more I study things that I'm going to be need for a new position in my work, more I see sense and connection in it, and I'm starting to have genuine fun with that. So I can attest that in real life, in writing story, and in day job. Another thing that I asked Minstrel was if she's practically proud of specific scene or elements of her story that she would be willing to share, and she answers, I'm particularly proud of the authenticity of my dialogue. I used to worry that it would be hardest part of writing for me, but it turned out to be one of the easiest. As long as I have true understanding of who my characters are, the dialogue comes as easily as conversation with friend. End of answer. Short but sweet answer. And absolutely, people are worried often how to make dialogue, technical writing is important. Writing part of the writing is absolutely important, but you need to know your sentence structure. You need to catch yourself for being too simple or too overcomplicating or using words that just don't fit. But also, many people I seen to be got so much in technicality of writing, they forgot that they are writing fiction, and for lack of better term. And first time I heard this, don't I think he was quoting it by self, but Eli, also known as Plague of Gripes, artist and YouTuber, he was at the time it was called Super Best Friend Cast. Sadly, they fell apart. Now they continue as Cast of Super Bees, which again love them. But he said, and it was podcast called Christmas with Gripes when they invite him for Christmas podcast, and they were talking about video game Final Fantasy 15, which is clearly unfinished, and many people find it very disappointing despite its sales. And he pointed something out that stuck in my head forever, and he said that people stay with the story because they want to be with their fictional friends. And that's how you should look at the story, and that's how I definitely write. And you clearly do too. Not to see characters just as a vehicles to move story forward, but make sure that characters have connection to each other as well as audience have connection to them. Again, make your make your audience to see characters as their friends, make them care. And with that, once you got that point, like again, see, people also stress a lot of world building. What kind of economics should be here? What kind of religion and everything before they even have idea for what they might want to state. First, come with the idea for what you want to create. If your story takes place on the moon, then you can draw a line to how will be travel, how will be food, how will be money, how will be religion. And again, if you first make sure that this one character is too shy, then you know automatically that he won't be doing proud and long sentences. If you know that this character is very cheery and very helpful, you will know that this character likes to talk a lot and likes to tell a lot of joke. I'm giving commentary longer than your answer, but I really stand by it. You really, again, hit the nail on the head by saying that once you know your character's dialogue is the easy part. Question 12 in my interview, one of my favorite ones, and I ask people, as I'm asking Minstrel right now, is that your character took you on blind date. How did it go? Your main character included work in progress, and she says, if I were to go on blind date with my main character, we would quickly realize that we were meant to be friends instead of lovers. She likes to treat the woman like a lady, letting them know that they would be cared for if they ended up with her, and I'm the same way. It would be more than a little awkward, as we both tried to reach for the check and it wouldn't let another pay for the dinner. End of answer. Really mature and really intelligent answer. And now I see what you said earlier, that you actually you use your life experience and your maturity in writing the story. I can see that. I don't think I would be able to see that, at least on my own, if I was 20 or younger, because that's just not what most fiction tells you. And this makes your fiction, even if it's pure fiction, even if it's pure entertainment, it makes it more relatable and stronger. And I can really see that in what you said. Yeah, opposites extract and different polarities extract. Some people like to be challenged, some people like to be equal, some people likes to be either cared for or being caregivers. No one has right to judge you for your life choices, as long as you're not hurting anyone. And again, from BDSM community and DS community, which now that is not what 50 Shades of Grey told you about. There's a lot of caring, and some people, you will be surprised, but majority of people in BDSM love to care. It's just that submissives love to care for every wish of their master or mistress, while dominants like to make sure that their little or their submissive is safe and cared for. You'll be surprised how much caring it is, but there must be different polarity. And like I said, not to repeat myself, I'm just gonna stress again. I like the idea. Earlier, you said that you're using your love experience and maturity. Now I can see it absolutely in the action. Next question is a similar vein of the previous one, kind of a fun question that I couldn't help but not add in the interview is your character or characters from other someone else's piece of fiction are throwing you a birthday party. How did it go? And Minstrel answers, that's a good question. Growing up with Harry Potter as I did, I would love the idea of spending my birthday with some of those fantastic characters, but maybe not ones you think. I would love to spend the day messing around town with Fred and George, and we could get into all kinds of trouble, and then, at the end of the day, I spend it with Molly Weasley. She was such a caring heart, she would do everything she could to make it my most special day. End of answer. Okay, you can tell that I'm again being big pussy I am. I look like a Bond villain. Look at my picture on Twitter. I have bald, I'm missing half of my teeth. You can hear my accent. I look like freaking I look I look like someone that James Bond punched in the neck so he can move into another scene. But I am big softy. And you can tell me breaking. You can hear me clearly breaking after mentioning of Molly Weasley. And if you go minute or two back, you can see how I forced myself to stop after mentioning Fred and George. Because I almost jumped in. Fred and George are the better than we deserve. And I'm not extrovert. I usually feel very timid around highly extroverted people, even though through writing community and BDSM community, I'm becoming very much more open person. And for first time ever, I spent evening with bunch of stranger and I had fun, which for me at age of 27, that happens like once a decade. And Fred and George, I am convinced. And actually, some of the guys who were there have had very similar personality to Fred and George, always joking, always being welcomed. And when someone is high energy introvert and make when someone is high energy extrovert like Fred and George or people I met on those in this group last Wednesday, and they can make someone like me, very low energy introvert, feel good about spending time with them. And problem what people don't understand about introvert, especially empaths, it's not like we don't like people. We absolutely love people, but just being in the room with other people can physically exhaust us. And I felt energized, and that I spent a whole week thinking about like this is almost alien for me feeling energized by being with other people. And I could absolutely see Fred and George having that effect on people. Even if you think they will be mean, even if you're shy, even if you expect someone bully you, Fred and George will just make you ease up and make you just lose it and have fun. And Molly Weasley is just, I just want to hug that lady, okay? I just want to give Molly Weasley big hug because she's like one of the best mother/wife character in all of a fiction. And yeah, I know that most people would go for Snape or a main trio or someone like that, or support of main trio. Even Neville has become popular in recent years. But even though I always like Neville, mostly because I could relate to him. But yeah, Molly Weasley, I wish more people talk about her because she's not fighter, even though she kills some bad guy, I believe. It's Harry Potter at the time. She kills the crazy lady at the end of the seven while protecting her child. But Molly Weasley is, in my country, we said in Cart and Chariot, for its description of woman who is both tough and feminine, and it's basically the best in my country. It's best praise in Cart in the Chariot, and you can put woman in a cart, meaning she will help you with labor or work or support you, and you can put her in Chariot, meaning she can be also feminine, beautiful, and stunning. It's basically greatest praise you can give to woman, and Molly Weasley earns it 100%. Next question is the one that I mentioned before, if there are any real life or historical events. You know what I mean. Real historical, something you might see in book or documentary or even classroom, or something that happened to you that inspired you or continues to do so. And Minster answers. There aren't any specific events that inspired me to become writer, but there are endless things in this world that inspired me to write. I've recently started blogging about such things in my own life, the good and the bad, because there is so much we could learn from each other if we only take few minutes to listen. If you want to add a link, the website is themadminstrel.wordpress.com. I definitely want to add link. In fact, the one that you gave me here in email didn't work. End of answer, by the way. My own rule, I keep breaking it. End of answer, and the link you gave me here, I opened it, it didn't work, but it offered me, I think there was some misspelling. I will definitely add proper link. And just quickly going through your blog, I load to admit when I'm wrong article. We all do, because clearly I get this idea from you right away, but you're not pretending to be better than everyone else. Curveballs and dreams. We all experience that. Kindness of strangers. Self-love and basket of puppies. That sounds like good idea. Good article. I'm definitely gonna read this. Tornado Alley. I lie for your benefits. This sounds like very honest and very hard-hitting article. Definitely gonna read that. And you should too. Again, it's themadminstrel.wordpress.com, and I'm gonna leave it in description. Minstrel is very clever person and she has good hard-hitting articles. Check them out, as will I. Next question. Any no Any non-book inspiration, be I ask if it would be video games or movies or something like that. Minstrel answers. I'm always finding inspiration from the world around me, but my greatest influence would have to be my family. They're rather unconventional group. Minstrel, you know I talk like Bond villain. You using those hard words to show how weak I am. Back to answer. They are rather unconventional group, favoring music and art over all things, being raised to recognize and appreciate the beauty in the world, and with a family that encouraged me to find my own form of expression, made it so I had the freedom to find writing. It was never looked down upon that I wanted to be storyteller, but it was encouraged, and without their support, who knows where would I be? End of answer. This is very interesting. I can really tell that you have wonderful family and they really believe in your writing. Comparing to my family, I used to joke that people with from unbroken homes are just weird. And I didn't talk to my father for many years. Now I regret it, but because now we are best friends ever with my grandma. I have very little of my family left, but those who I have, I absolutely adore. And it's not even their fault, but in my country, in Slovakia, try understand, I am first generation that wasn't born under dictatorship. I was born in 1992. Communist government was overthrown in 89. So like 3 years of democracy, I was born. I always say that communists were afraid that I'm coming. Even 90s were basically Wild West in Slovakia, even though now country is really safe and open to tourists. So if you ever don't know where to go, check out my homeland. Before communism, there was fascism. Before fascism, there was empire. Before Austria-Hungarian Empire, we had different kingdoms and tribes endlessly warring each other. So basically, like genetic memory of my people is incredibly pessimistic and incredibly cynical. And the best thing you can hear about writing or being creative is, yeah, that's a nice hobby, especially in my age. And even if I'm not quitting my day job, even I've been very focused, people are very kind and very happy, and I ask you, are you doing something with this? But I've noticed, especially older people are, and my grandma even straight up told me that she's not that she doesn't believe in me, but she finds it very difficult to even comprehend that you could make career of something that is fun or something that you want to do. My people just don't have brain built for that. So whenever I heard that mostly Westerners or the family outright encourages of writing or writing pad or writing career, it's just straight out of the other world, and I love to hearing about it. And thank you so much for this answer because it's just so inspiring and so beautiful. Next two next two questions are usually reserved to other skills other than writing and hobbies other than writing. Minstrel put them together with very fun answer of in my family, music was not an option. We were free to choose from any form of expression we wanted, but also had to learn the foundations of music as well. So I am singer. I made my debut as a backup vocalist on an album a few years back. It didn't go very far, but it was fun. I'm also a bass player, a guitar player, and I've been known to mess around with the flute from time to time. I also enjoy ceramics and throwing pots. There is a something so sensual and peaceful about poetry and using your hands to create something out of nothing. I love it. End of answer. I mentioned it before in Kyla's interview, but I love doing those interviews. I love uh, learning about my comrades from writing community, but boy, I feel so dumb sometimes. You're a singer and guitarist and vocalist and you are on album? Wow! Minstrel, you are more interesting. People things you have as a hobby and don't follow as a career or even main dream that are more interesting than life of some of my fantasy characters. You are a singer? What? No one in my family can even say a long sentence. Again, not that they're stupid, but we just don't do that. We're Slovaks. Why the hell would you be happy? If you're happy, it means you are not working. You're Slovak. Go back. And if things go bad, again, genetical memory in Slovakia, if things go well, it only means they're about to get worse. That's how most of our things, and I'm genuinely one of the more optimistic people of the bunch. Vocal is on album. I wonder, I don't want to like pressure you, but if you tweeted me something about your music or where we could hear that, that would be definitely awesome. Because wow, I'm sorry, I don't really have anything clever to add because I'm just stunned. Next question is something that I think we all need to hear answered, not just for us but from others. And it's how do you deal with writing fears and doubts? And Minstrel answers. I feel fortunate to grow up in an artistic family because I learned early on that success was not measured by how many pieces of art you sell or how recognized you become. It's all in your value, it's all in how you value yourself and your work. Knowing this has given me the strength to face rejection, knowing that it's not a rejection of me personally. It's just something about this particular piece that didn't resonate with particular person. So I can either change the piece or decide I like it the way it is and move on. End of answer. Again, comes back to you being older than me and wiser. I'm just slowly getting to that point, and I was joking that I'm not adult, I am adult age, but you are an adult, and like I said, things that I can see from your answer. Your family and your time to grow really make you stronger person, and that is something to envy on, and that is something to be inspired by. So thank you for that answer. Guilty pleasures you're willing to share and minstrel answers. I don't particularly believe in guilty pleasures because this means you should feel shame for something you enjoy, and I don't think we should put that social stigma on things. As long as it's not hurting you or anyone else, be proud of those things that gives you joy. End of answer. Very good answer. I loved it. I made it more of a joking point, but you exposed me here a bit because even though I said it in exposed way, in joking way, there is something to say about people needing to relax. And my personally, I am naturally very lazy and I have fear I have like this constant panic fear that I wasted my youth, which I kind of did. So now I'm trying to go double down. Even other people, and it wasn't praise and it wasn't criticism, just other people who see me act and who see how I think, pointed out that I have really big problems to start with balance. Either I don't do anything, either I sit on a couch or I lift weights 7 times a week. Either I don't work anything or I'm trying to write as much as possible. Either I am not really improving or I'm having 5 projects at once. And like it or not, yes, you can indulge in anything and you can become lazy, but relax and doing something that helps you reset your brain makes you better in long term. No, really. And I had to admit, even the biggest workaholics had to admit sometimes that short break or break that's long enough for you to relax and truly relax really helps you learn and be more productive in the future. So, a really good advice, Minstrel. Second to last question is, what advice would you give another writer, other writers? And Minstrel answers, don't wait. If you want, you can find million excuses not to follow your dreams, but excuses are rarely a good reason. So if you really want it, get over your fears and insecurities and just do it. End of answer. Perfect. Simply perfect. And it's something that I struggle with and I sound really good. Again, that my thing with going from extreme to extreme. I used to be really lazy and I'm gonna be releasing my old podcast even though I'm a bit afraid because I was kind of a mean person back then, even though it was recorded just a year ago or so. I went from being extremely lazy to being almost mad of anyone who worked just not giving their all, even though I wasn't giving my all. But you're being very clever, or you say that, yeah, excuses always creep up. There's an entire book series called War of Art by Steven Pressfield or Going Pro. And he always talks about things that he calls resistance. And basically, it's more important something it is for you, faster your brain finds excuses. And there's science to that. There's a book called The Power of Habit, and my probably favorite nonfiction. But my favorite nonfiction, I'm blacking out. Sorry, I've been talking for a while. It's Willpower Instinct by Kelly McGonigal, my favorite nonfiction book, even though You Can Break Me by David Goggins is slowly getting to that point because parts of that book I re-listened about 10 times, as well as entirety of Willpower Instinct. And it's true. Your brain, it is not like your brain is enemy, it's evolution all the way till the cave and till our ancestors live in caves. Trying something new meant that you could be attacked by tiger. So your brain is trying to protect, even though brain in same times reward us for novelty, which is why we want new stories, new things, new experiences. But also it's trying to stop us from doing things that could be completely new, because that way it could be something dangerous, and the fear of failure is a real thing and it's supposed to protect you, but it goes too far, just like dopamine, just like everything. Basically, theory I subscribe to is that our brain didn't evolve. But some people say in a way that world around us changed faster than our brain had a chance to adapt. So our caveman brain either let us eat million donuts because our caveman brain thinks that we might not find another one, as if donuts were same thing as berries in stone ages. But also our brain is trying to protect us, giving us fear of rejection, fear of failure. And I will also add, this is great advice and advice that I use every day and I use today multiple times by doing this, by writing writing before, and I'm gonna be writing again. It's advice from Wooly Madden, also known as Wooly or Wooly Versus. He has channel Wooly Versus right now. When I'm writing on background, I have Wooly Versus third birthday, part 21. He's a let's player, he's podcaster, he's part of Castle Super Beast, my favorite podcast, which itself is sequel to Friendcast, which used to be my favorite podcast before it fell apart. I mentioned them multiple times before. And Wooly is it's mostly about video games, but especially today, after original Best Friends Play fell apart, they still do their own thing. Uh, Pat and Liam are streaming games. Matt has his channel as well as Wooly, and Wooly also has separate podcasts. Wooly will figure it out, talking about failure and fears and trying to deal with anxiety. Very different for his usual video game content. Still fun, but and getting to the point. Wooly said one of the best advices, which is connected and very similar to your don't wait, which is more closer to moment and close. Your advice is how to lead your life, and it's fantastic advice that I recommend. Wooly's was similar, effectively saying exactly what you said, but putting it more to the moment. When you feel like making excuse about something, or when you feel like, you know what, I'm gonna do this later, I'm gonna do this after I do something else. Second that thought pops out, do the thing immediately. When you think, you know what, I'm gonna write first page of chapter or my book after I take a shower. No, write that first chapter. Start writing now, then go chapter. You know what? I'm going to work on podcast after I take a nap. No, start working right now, then do the podcast. You know what? I'm gonna try to write poem after I watch a movie. No, start writing the poem right in this second. Then you can do the other thing. Same was said in Power of Habit. Same was said in Willpower Instinct. Even Goggins' book, You Can't Break Me. Your brain, you train your brain whenever you realize it or not. And whenever there's a writing doubt or any hesitation, ignore it immediately. Work on the goal immediately. And final question for Minstrel was, what is she working on right now? And if she's willing to share. And she sure is. She answers, I've been working on YA, Sword and Sorcery Fantasy for about a year now. I've completed the first two drafts and plan to have it finished by the end of next year. I write under different pen names for each genre and I work with it, but I'll be sure to post them all on Twitter, so keep an eye and I'll keep you up to date with my upcoming projects. End of answer. I'll definitely will, and tell you what, YA Sword and Sorcery seems really fun because YA became like, has kind of arguably Twilight, if you count that as YA, and definitely Hunger Games became like new renaissance of young adult, but since a lot of them copied the bigger ones, it was most of them were either in present day or future. And I love Hunger Games, don't get me wrong. I even like Divergent, which I didn't think I would, but I enjoyed the hell out of it. But it was all sci-fi or post-apocalypse. And classical sorcery with YA sounds like, ironically almost, breath of fresh air, because when I was growing up, traditional swords and sorcery was what everyone was doing. That was Tolkien, that was even arguably Harry Potter. Then things change, and now again sword and sorcery is once again the new thing. It went full circle, so I'm definitely excited from that. And again, we could keep going back to it. That's the point. That's how we know someone. Seeing your maturity and seeing how much you got from your family and still continue to have, and how much you have to give. I think your YA look at fantasy will be very mature, not in terms of violence, but very adult, very sensible. Even like the joke answer about taking your, joke question about your MC is taking you on a date, and you gave me very adult, very sane answer. I cannot wait to see your style and your personality being in young adult swords and sorcery fantasy, because I believe it's going to be not only fun but very inspiring and very educational. And I just really seriously tweet me when it comes out. I'll be more than happy to make video or podcast because this just looks awesome. This was interview with my great Twitter friend and big inspiration, Matt Minstrel, or girl named Friend. As you can tell by yourself by now, She's really inspiring, really helpful, and knows what she's talking about. Thank you so much. She has also, again, wonderful blog called the madminstrel.wordpress.com. I cannot wait to read more from her. I cannot wait for her projects. Both the lesbian love story and Wire Source and Sorcery looks great. And you should check her Twitter and you should check her blog. Also, this time, since first one with Kyla was better than I expected, I did a wise thing and can ask more people for help. And my other awesome person on Twitter, Brave Heart Brave Soul, also known as at Cave Brave 73, also sent me her answers. So we're gonna be making new interview hopefully next week at the same time. Hope you will be there because Brave is awesome and she'll be great to listen to. Now, this is so much all I had to do for this podcast. If you like it, check out and follow Mad Minstrel. I would also obviously appreciate if you look at my Twitter at CrownlessKingSK, and most importantly, if you like this and you find it anyway useful, and if you like to see content like this in the future, it would really help me if you subscribe to my YouTube channel so we can hopefully grow it together and bring more content like this to you in the future. Thank you so much for your time. Hope it was useful for you and hope I can hear from you next time. Stay awesome.